Yes, hello, everybody. I know that we are only one session left before the closing session, so getting excited just to finish because it's a long day. But okay, just coming here. So we have been navigating through the couple of days about Earth observation contributing to the different dimensions. Here, the discussion will be how Earth observation is enabling monitoring, reporting, and verification for nature-based solutions, but also carbon management. Why we select this? We select this because the topic of the symposium or the conference is about investing in Earth intelligence for a resilient future. And we understood that the dimension of the policy is so important, but equally the market. Nowadays, there are certain markets that are moving on. The voluntary carbon market is there, but it's also another type of movement through the policies that are somehow injecting this interest from different corporates in the energy sector, in the insurance sector. So, but to better understand what does it really mean, monitoring, reporting, and verification, and how this type of technology could support on that. So this session is about that. I'm very glad that we have an excellent panel. Those ones which are in the room, we will miss them, but you not. So let's start to make a kind of journey about what we will discuss. So we will begin with UNEP, with International Ecosystem Management Partnership, that will provide a kind of broader policy view, but also connecting that with the societal framing. So this opening perspective will explain how Earth intelligence is increasingly important, not only for the Sustainable Development Agenda, the SDGs, but other frameworks, like the nature-based solutions, or how they became truly valuable when you are embedding that information or integrating with the socioeconomic information. From that, we will go through the Chinese Academy of Science, where we will focus on the shift from the scientific perspective foundations, and also about how through the CERN, but also China flags, they will present the long-term ecological observations, the flags towers, the field inventories, and how all these data sets are merging together and integrating together to better understand uncertainty, the trust for the users, etc. Then we will move to the Colombian Institute of Hydrology and Meteorology, which will dive into the national operational systems. The Colombia experience will illustrate how Earth observation, field data, modeling, but most importantly, the institutional cooperation can support forest monitoring, greenhouse gas reporting, the REDS implementation, but also territorial planning and climate governance. Then we will move from a very practical case, very operational service delivery through the CLS group in the Gabon case, where we will move from this forest cover and land use chains, and how to make these systems more automated, scalable, but also reliable. And finally, we have a presentation that unfortunately is recorded because the person that was Flavia, which is from Planet, was not able to attend at the very last moment. So, but she kindly sent us her video recordings. This presentation is also very important, and we wanted to have it here because through Planet's exercise, they will go beyond the policy. They will go through the advanced analytics, but also trying to understand how these policies are connecting to the carbon markets. And these carbon markets are connecting to a high-level discussion and new level. So in this case, there is the Article 6 from the forest carbon integrity and carbon markets. And this is the connection between a technology, a policy, but also the market. Different communities that maybe today are not here, but they are already getting an interest on what we are doing. So without further delay, we will do through this roadmap. Global goals, socioeconomic relevance, scientific credibility, national implementation, operational scalability, and then we will go from this final chapter about finance. Who is going to finance these activities? So I'm very excited now to present our speakers. So we have the first speaker is Linshu Sun. She's the director of UNEP, International Ecosystem Management Partnerships, and it also collaborates with the Joint Center of Chinese Academy of Science. As I mentioned before, she will bring us through this socioeconomic framework and how we connect these ones. So Linshu, thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica. Let me see where my presentation is. Oh, those are the questions. Yep. I would like to start with how the Earth intelligence can support the SDG implementation, but I would just touch a little bit, how to bridge the observations and towards a long channel towards decisions and impact. And the reason I start with this is because at UNEP, we're trying to address the triple planetary crisis. We know that the intertwined triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and ecosystem degradation plus increased pollution are really undermining our ability to achieve the sustainable development. And from yesterday and today, we all believe that Earth intelligence can support the acceleration of SDGs. However, we all know that achieving SDGs requires not only data, but the ability of translating it into the knowledge and the insights and for supported action where it leads to the impact. So we know that we have a data abundance, but we have a very long way of making data into a decision-making kind of tool. So that's, I think we've been talking about it from yesterday to today. So we know that from data to knowledge, that means transforming environmental data into SDG relevant insights. But to do so, we need to answer 3 questions. Why is changing happening? Who is affected? And also, what are the implications or impacts there? So here, really, integrated environmental intelligence becomes the key that we began bridging science and policy. And of course, turning insights into decisions requires the knowledge integration, but very much so integrated into the decision-making process. And then we can have, the knowledge or the insights for supported decisions and action where we lead to the impact. So I don't want to go for the concept, but just wanted to use a couple of examples to do so. But before that, in terms of the integration, I think from yesterday and today, so many people talking about different hand disciplines somehow. But I would think that if it's not a missing link, but it's a weak link between geo and also socioeconomic. Because the importance of a socioeconomic integration that enables causality, human relevance, and decision clarity, but it also enables practical and equitable MBS implementation, and also navigating the trade-offs in land use and carbon outcomes. I think socioeconomic integration is very important. So the 2 examples I'm going to use, one is the sand and dust storm study, where we using the EO information to identify the dust origin, but integrating with the vulnerability mapping where socioeconomic and local kind of in situ data were integrated, where we could combine the source and vulnerable mapping in order to support the government to balance cost-effective decisions, whether it's a short-term adaptive measures or long-term investment for restoration. And that work is a collaboration with UNCCD. It's contributing, this one is contributing to China's UNCCD work, but we are also using this model to apply it in the Central Asia. For the time interest, I'm not going to go there, but that's with UNCCD. So I know from yesterday, today we're talking about land degradation neutrality. Actually, that's UNCCD's kind of a goal, And the second study is really a scenario analysis about sustainable agriculture. That is UNEP's TEEP initiative, supported by, funded by EU, where this is really a scenario analysis using EO data to analyze or to assess the land use and land cover change that has the estimate or assess the impact on ecosystem services. But the key of this is really it was coming from local needs because the local government is in the process of developing their 15th five-year plan. And they want to know that different pathways of agricultural development would cause what kind of consequence or environmental, social, economical, and even human sides. So with that one, I think we have been collaborating or co-branding this throughout the process. So the impact or the consequences, the local government have this as information for them to modify their 12th five-year plan, but at the same time, they know that this work has supported the National Biodiversity Strategy Update for China. So that's supporting the UNCBD work as well. And that one is also we wrote a policy brief at UNEP, which really talking about the country cases there. So these two cases, I would say complementary. And one on the dust storm is retrospective and improve the understanding. But second one is forward-looking with scenario analysis, but enabled action. So both cases really prove that the socio-economic integration transforms EO into Earth intelligence that really supports MBS implementation and carbon-informed decision-making. So with that, I hope my time is okay. I haven't got the 2 minutes or something. So to conclude, I think, moving from data towards impact, we must make sure that integration and implementation are the key because this would enable the advanced MBS and effective carbon management policies there in the country. And with this kind of background, I wanted to make and hammer 3 recommendations for the EO. I think the first one, and that the GEO should operationalize integration through thematic pilots where EO data and socio-economic data and policy relevance should all be integrated together where to deliver kind of policy relevant outcomes that could be uptaken by the different stakeholders, government. But also the second one, the GEO should support the development of adaptable and modular integration framework where to maintain the technical consistencies, but at the same time allow the flexibility of the carbon policies and also the nature-based solution that fits with the specific context. The last but never the least, I always wanted to say the GEO should emphasize and strengthening the core design of any project throughout which involves multi-stakeholders, especially the policymakers, that we know that the results and the outcomes from all those kind of fantastic GEO work could be uptaken by users, not only the government, but also communities and other stakeholders. So in all, I wanted you to keep in mind the integration, especially with social science dimension, is very important because that involves human, institution, policy, and governance. I think I have the time to conclude by saying who we are, what we do. So UNEP International Ecosystem Management Partnership is a joint venture between UNEP and Chinese Academy of Sciences. And we always say we are UNEP's first collaborating center in the South and for the South. We work at the interface of science, policy, and action. What I want to refer is that the reason we are housed at the Chinese Academy of Sciences is because we have a technical backup from CERN, Chinese Ecosystem Research Network, where they provide the technical assistance wherever we go. Because our mission is really to provide the science policy and the capacity support to developing countries in order to integrate ecosystem management into their national policy to preserve and enhance ecosystem services. So we have a flagship program named Climate Ecosystem Livelihood Nexus, where we're calling for interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary and cross-sector, even cross-border collaboration throughout. Thank you very much. That's all.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lin Xu. I think it was very inspireful. I think because he was very diligent, maybe I could, a burning question from the audience, maybe you could take it. Okay, I think it was really good that you reflected on this socioeconomic, obviously, component, but what I like it most is really this convention with the global conventions, but also the type of regulations that will be foreseen in the countries. So let's keep that. And also maybe it's a good transition to go to C-Chain, because the collaboration that you have already with the Chinese Ecosystem Research Network, but also with UNEP, as you refer. So C-Chain is a researcher is a director in the CERN, is the Chinese Ecosystem Research Network, but she's also working in the China Flash, which is, you will see in the presentation, is a very nice experiment, how we're looking into the carbon sink dynamics. So thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Zhi Chen from the Institute of Geographic Science and Natural Resources Research, the Chinese Academy of Science. It's my honor to be here to present at this GEOS symposium. Today, my topic is about the bridge for the carbon management with the GEO and the ecosystem research work in China. I would like to explore together how we can use the Earth observation, turn this observation into actionable intelligence for our resilient future. So first, let's, oh, sorry. It's hard for me to control. First, let's realign on what Earth observation represents. In my opinion, the Earth observation is a technical systems that utilizing observations at different scales, from the satellite, the airborne platform, and also the UAVs, also combined with the ground-based observation stations, that to continuously and dynamically, also very important, quantitatively to monitor the Earth system. However, thank you. However, just the observation and raw data is not enough. So our mission is to deliver operational Earth intelligence. So we need to, by integrating, diagnosing, and forecasting, also delivering multi-sources data, we transfer the observations into quantifiable and also the traceable and actionable intelligence for several critical domains, such as we focus on the ecosystem sustainability and the carbon management. And to ground this optional intelligence with robust empirical validation, China has invested heavily in state-of-the-art infrastructure over the past 4 decades. The Chinese Ecosystem Research Network, often we call the CERN, established in 1988, and now spanned diverse ecological roles with 48 comprehensive field stations and more than 15,000 permanent survey plots. And as its co-extension, the ecosystem flux observation and research network also launched in 2001, utilizing the eddy covariance technique and micro meteorological methods to conduct the long-term network observations of the carbon fluxes exchange between the ecosystems and the atmosphere. So through this infrastructure, we can conduct multi-scales, multi-factors, and multi-processes integrated Earth observations and experiment. So these long-term standardized and in situ management measurements have significantly advanced our understanding of the carbon cycle. For instance, studies published in PLAS verified that the massive carbon uptake capabilities in subtropic forest at the East Asian monsoon region, and also revealed that the plant carbon uptake outpaces the carbon loss from the permafrost on the Qinghai Tibetan plateau under these warming scenarios. Looking forward, the SIR is now pioneering a new generation of Earth observations that we call the Space Air Ground Comprehensive Observation System. It has architectic carbon sink monitoring platform that integrated the high precision greenhouse concentration observation, the high frequency greenhouse flux observation, and also the near surface remote sensing of the soil and the biomass carbon stock change observations. Okay. This infrastructures tracking over 300 co-ecosystem indicators and achieved the standardized protocol and automatic monitoring for the carbon sink data. Also, this infrastructure is expected to support the strategic goal of the carbon neutrality and carbon management in China by cross-validating the long-term field inventories, the models and the satellite inversions. It could substantially to minimize the uncertainties in the carbon sink estimation to provide us a more robust and high confident carbon of our national carbon accounting. So, and finally, I think to promote the collaborations of the geo and the network, I would like to propose several recommendations in the field of carbon management. First is to promote the coordinated deploying between the geos and the national or the regional observation networks. And the second, establish a unified data standards and open sharing mechanisms for the carbon cycle. Third, integrate multi sources observation data and harmonize the carbon accounting method. And fourth, to build the regional regional demonstration and collaborations in typical regions such as the monsoon region, the arid regions, also the permafrost areas, I think. And the last, enhance the support of the GEO's results for the international climate governance, such as the global stock take and global carbon budget estimate. We are so eager to foster the open collaborations and sharing insights with global partners in the field of carbon management, and welcome for your insights. Thanks for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Xin-Chen. I think also we have time for a question from the audience. So any burning one? Okay, for me, it's really interesting that you connect with the carbon markets and also carbon accounting, specifically because the dimension of the finance and also to bring different stakeholders. Do you have in China any corporate, I mean, an insurance or energy company that wanted to approach you to better understand which is the carbon removal, the carbon sink?
Company to finance?
Different companies in different sectors.
The government.
The government, yeah, okay.
By up to today, up to now, the company is not so many, but the government invested a lot of.
It's mainly the government side.
Yes.
Okay, but indeed, very, very interesting lessons learned there. Thank you so much. So we move now to the next speaker, and I have the pleasure to invite Gislian Echeverry Prieto. She's the Director General of the Colombian Institute of Hydrology, Meteorological, and Environmental Studies, IDEAM. She holds a PhD in environmental science, but her focus also on strengthening science-based decision-making on environmental information systems, but also international cooperation. Thank you very much, Gislian. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Okay. It's too far. Good afternoon. My name is Gislian Echeverry, Director General of IDEAM. I would like to share Colombia's experience in forest and carbon monitoring and how air observation technologies are supporting environment governance, climate action, and decision-making in our country. Okay. Colombia is one of the most biodiverse countries in the world, and forests are the center of our environmental, social, and climate priorities. Protecting them requires science, innovation, institutional coordination, and international cooperation, and IDEAM is in the heart of all this. Excuse me, I am lost with this. This is because IDEAM, in addition to being the it's difficult to mean English, hydrometeorological service, we also the National Institute of Environmental Science, and we have to integrate all this information in only one institute. And our mission is to collect, process, and provide environmental information that supports national policy, territorial planning, and sustainable development. We generate scientific and technical knowledge on ecosystem, climate, water resource, soils, and forests, and provide critical information to all the sectors in our country. In practice, this means we transforming environment data into tools that governments, institutions, and communities can use to make informed decisions. Huge challenge for us. So, at IDEAM, we operate and integrate environmental monitoring infrastructure, which combines satellite imagery from cores to high resolution with meteorological radars, field networks, and atmospheric observation. This information is processed through advanced technological infrastructure, including cloud processing system, large-scale storage capacities, and progress towards high-performance computing environment. The objective is not only to collect data, but to transfer into actionable information, early warnings, hydrometeorological bulletins, deforestation alerts, scenario modeling, and open access products for decision makers. This integration between science, technology, and policy is essential for countries facing increasing environmental pressure and climate risks. So, within IDEAM, the Ecosystem Subdirectorate leads forest monitoring and land use analysis. Our works include forest cover monitoring, deforestation assessments, ecosystem mapping, soils analysis, and inputs for ecosystem-based adaptation strategies. These efforts generate annual reports, national inventories, technical bulletins, and monitoring products that are publicly available and scientific roads. A key component of Colombia's forest and carbon monitoring system is the integration of the forest information at the national scale. So, the forest and carbon monitoring system combines several complementary components. First, we have the National Forest Information System and the National Forest Inventory, which provide data on biodiversity, forest structure, and carbon stocks. Second, we produce annual official forest monitoring reports and early warning detection. Third, with integrated degradation monitoring, restoration monitoring, carbon accounting, and community participatory monitoring. This entire process is supported by technological platforms and by innovative algorithms developed in Colombia for images preprocessing, cloud masking, fire detection, change analysis, and deforestation assessment. Today, satellite information and computational technologies are fundamental tools for controlling deforestation and strengthening transparency. So, this is... Yeah. Colombia currently has approximately 59 million hectares of natural forests. Of these, nearly 39 million hectares are located in the Amazon region, where about 85% of the territory remains covered by forests. This is why we say Colombia is a forest. Forests are not only ecosystems, they are essential for climate regulation, biodiversity conservation, water security, and the livelihoods of indigenous people and local communities. However, maintaining this natural heritage requires permanent monitoring and strong governance mechanisms. Excuse me. I don't know what happened, but okay. Despite progress, Colombia continues to face major deforestation pressure. Okay, está quieto. The main direct drivers include land grabbing associated with pasture expansion, unsustainable cattle ranching, unplanned infrastructure, illegal mining, illicit crops, and illegal logging and agricultural expansion. Through a monitor system, we identify active deforestation hotspots across the country. In 2024, more than half of national deforestation was concentrated in only 9 critical hotspots, particularly in the Amazon region. This information allows authorities to prioritize intervention and strengthen prevention and control action. Okay. No quiere cambiar. Sorry. I don't know what happened. Okay. Although Colombia has made significant progress, important challenges remain. One challenge is ensuring sustainable financing for cloud processing and technological infrastructure necessary for operational forest monitoring. Another priority is strengthening a national deforestation reduction strategy with measured objective and long-term implementation. We also need continued access to high-quality remote sensing data and stronger interoperability between monitoring systems and traceability mechanisms. At the same time, Colombia is advancing toward more robust estimates for net zero deforestation and improved climate reporting under our commitments to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and the Paris Agreement. In addition to monitoring forest loss, Colombia is also strengthening restoration monitoring. Our objective is to track and report effective forest restoration and other forest cover transition using interoperable data integrated into the forest and carbon monitoring system. This helps improve the follow-up of restoration action and enhance climate change reporting and accountability. Monitoring restoration is essential because climate action is not only about reducing loss, it it is also about recovering ecosystem and strengthening resilience. Finally, I would like to highlight Colombia's commitment to international cooperation. The forest and carbon monitoring system is now part of the Colombian South-South cooperation portfolio through the Cooperation Agency of Colombia. Several countries have showed interest in Colombia's methodologies and good practice, particularly in integrating satellite monitoring, institutional coordination, and transparent reporting system. We believe cooperation is fundamental for achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and for building more equitable environment governance. So, in closing, Colombia reaffirms its commitment to science-based environmental management, technological innovation, and international collaboration. Earth observation is not only about monitoring our planet, but is also about enabling better decisions for people, ecosystem, and future generations. Thank you so much for your attention.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Gislian. It's very interesting to see how the different, maybe the government, the ministries, are also the institutes are working together for the common goal, which is preventing maybe deforestation in a country. So I'm sure that you have a lot of lessons learned, but let me see if you ask a question from the audience. Okay, I just have a quick one about how you say that you interact with different institutes. How often do you meet with them?
Okay, I can answer it in
Very
Spanish
quick,
y you can help me to translate in English. Te puedo contestar en español y tú.
Sí, sí.
Okay.
Sí.
In Colombia, we have something that is called CONALDEF, Consejo Nacional de Lucha contra la Deforestación, and we meet every Monday. Every week.
Yeah, but you already stayed in English.
Every week we have a reunion, a meeting with the Minister of Environmental, and we are several institutions from Policía, Fiscalía, I don't know what is the name, ministerios, presidencia, all the institutions in the government and the instituciones que no sé, que criminalizan la policía y demás, nos reunimos cada lunes para hacer seguimiento. For the alertas, the early warning of deforestation.
Yeah, I think everyone noticed that they are meeting very often with the different institutions that doing law enforcement, so they meet regularly with that. So that's great. I mean, I think it's a good achievement already. So thank you very much, Gislian, for your case. So let's move to another case, and with that, the leading actor is the CLS, Sebastian Delbourg. He is a senior geospatial professional at CLS Group, and he leads these operations with the Copernicus program. Is also different activities, but also forest monitoring, a key priority topic. And he will dive us in a case that is operational in Gabon. Yeah, I think so. So yes, and he will dive out from these discussions and how they really make it scalable in another country. So thank you, Sebastian.
Thanks a lot, Monica. Indeed, it is a good transition with the Colombia case in which CLS has supported another country to make benefits of EO for forest monitoring and to deploy capacity and capabilities also to operate it independently. Okay, so the presentation is split in 3 parts. Firstly, I will give you some elements of context regarding this country and CLS collaboration. Then I will give you a brief overview of the main activities carried out by CLS with the Space Agency. And finally, some main issues, lessons learned, and next steps. So Gabon could be considered as a quite small country in terms of area and population, but has a significant amount of natural resources, which is necessary for its economy. So in this context of climate change, ensuring its economy and public policies evaluation a space program has been created by building infrastructure for data collection, processing, and exploitation directly by a new entity created in 2010 called AGEOS, Gabonese Space Agency, with the following main priorities: obviously forest monitoring, but also coastal dynamics, water resources, and urban trends. In terms of environmental context, Gabon's forests cover more than 90% of its territory. This is huge, and it makes this country a global hotspot for carbon sequestration, but also biodiversity conservation and water regulation. The deforestation rate over the last 2 decades was pretty low, and degradation was more generalized over some area with a high presence of human beings linked to activities such as logging, plantations, and cropland, but also new infrastructure and roads. This is the first country to receive a performance-based REDD+ funding in 2021 for the efforts put to reduce deforestation and degradation measured over the 2-year period, 16-17. Still, there was a need to enhance institutional and technical capacities to access carbon markets. CLS collaborated with Gabon since years through the Central African Forest Initiative, namely CAFI, for which a national program has been settled, the National Land Use Planning and Forest Monitoring to promote sustainable development strategies for Gabon, and the relevant EU-based system at national level for monitoring natural resources and forests called SNORF. Here is one of the specific objectives of the CAFI program. I mean, improve knowledge and understanding of forest ecosystem dynamics, improve ecological monitoring and support long-term research on this, and finally build capacity to tackle climate change through rigorous postgraduate training. To implement this objective, AGEOS has received technical support from our company. So regarding now the main activities carried out over the 3-year period of the project for SNORF, the technical solution, firstly, basically, the methodological approach is based on a joint use and analysis of time series of freely available optical and SAR satellite imagery, enabling high frequency of measurements and near real-time monitoring. Basically, the sensors as inputs are US Landsat and Copernicus Sentinel-1 and 2 data. Whenever the system observe a change in the trend of time series, he will alert operators and users that there is something new and characterize at a first level. This way, operators and end users within the country can take decisions and make actions directly on the field if required. It is worth also to highlight as specifically, the use of SAR data is well suited in tropical environments such as Gabon because they can observe the territory through clouds. Data dissemination is also a key part of the project. It is essential and performed through a web-based dedicated platform in order to enable users and operators accessing to satellite input data themselves, but also data sets related to land use and forest cover and changes, and finally deforestation and degradation reports, both at national or regional level, or even for national parks, for example. In addition, declarative reports from field operations can also be registered for validation purposes. Last but not least, capacity building was also important for strengthening the sustainability of the system. It means increasing knowledge in remote sensing technologies and developing autonomy of operators by custom trainings, literally. We dedicated 2 on-site workshops and 3 webinars over the lifetime of the project to train the people from the space agency. Now, the main issues encountered during this project, from our perspective, It was about initial objectives and definition of technical requirements. It was not specific or detailed enough at the beginning, and it was necessary to communicate and to refine needs and specifications. This implied more effort and difficulties in terms of budget, literally. Another aspect was also space agency staff availability over a 3-year period. It can be a challenge because different duties for the staff, and capacity also because heterogeneous background from the different people. And finally, on-site conditions of operations and logistics matters are also to be taken into account. As main lessons learned from our side as a private company offering services for such solutions, the key issues were very objectives and requirements to be defined at the very stage of any process or projects. This is a key for a smooth implementation, and also communication to be performed with the right communication channels and tools, and getting feedback regularly at each step of the implementation of the projects. Finally, next steps. Definitely, we expect a long-term adoption of the system by the space agency itself and end users within the country, as long as there is a dedicated budget for maintenance and even service evolution. For example, we could explore further how to follow the efforts in terms of reforestation. Also, adoption by local authorities is expected by looking for concrete decisions and actions derived from its exploitation. I remain available for any questions, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. He already put the question to you. Anyone has any question? Okay, maybe I have one just of a transition now for the other one. You mentioned about capacity building, and I think this is a common word that is coming so often. Do you have any experience after this first capacity building? I mean, maybe 1 year after, you have a kind of follow-up process about the issues they may have without you training them daily or monthly?
Yeah, indeed. It's very relevant to ask for this capacity building things, because generally this is a huge part of the multi-year projects. But yeah, at the end, it is highly recommended to get a specific contract or something for a period of after-sales service, I would say, to accompany the local operators, because they can be struggling with different kinds of difficulties and issues to learn, handle the systems and tools. So yeah, it is definitely of high importance. It happened with the Gabonese Space Agency, and we have some other initiatives in which we observe this too. So highly important to propose support on a longer term, just for a smooth implementation from their part.
Indeed, I think this is one of the key elements that we have been listening. Capacity building is not only just one workshop or one webinar, it's really long-term. And also because maybe the needs are not maybe the first day, they will come later. So there is good that you plan this already. So we do have a last session, last presentation. Maybe you can give me that, because Flavia de Sousa Mendes is not here today, but she sent us the video recording. So Flavia is working with Planet Labs, is a data provider, which is bringing somehow Earth observation, very high resolution, and they are working really on climate action. And her specialty is in the forest and carbon information. So let's see if you can hear her.
Hello, everyone. I think actually it was a great idea to do the last one in this panel, because what is really interesting about what we have heard before is that together they really tell a bigger picture, right? Like a story that can connect. We heard about Earth intelligence, scientific credibility, which we are talking a lot lately, carbon monitoring, and of course, how countries are building these operational systems into their national systems. And what I really would like to do now is try to connect this to the future of climate finance mechanisms. Because today we know that whether we are talking, for example, about Article 6, right, like Article 6.2, which are this bilateral agreement, or the 6.4, for example, or the regulated carbon markets, even the voluntarian, or maybe the TFFF, or regulations, for example, like UDR, all these kind of mechanisms, finance mechanisms, also the regulations, they depended mostly on one thing, to really have a trusted monitoring system. And I think this is the major shift that it's happening right now. So before, Earth observation had a completely different meaning and usage. And I think it's no longer only helping us to monitor the forest. That's something that we have been doing very well for the last years, but it's really becoming part of this infrastructure behind the climate governance itself. And here in the slide, you can see like these 3 different main mechanisms that we have around climate and the forest. And I really think this transition is already happening. At last COP in Brazil, the COP 30, we have launched some initiatives with some countries across Latin America, with Planet and all of these countries. And I think what is really interesting that each one of these countries, they have, and they kind of represent also a completely different stage when you think about MRV and climate finance readiness, and also use cases, which is super interesting. For example, in Panama, the focus is mainly the Article 6 MRV. So really trying to powering the national systems that can support all the transparency, also to connect with the NDC implementation, which will be connected to the Article 6, and also the future participation in other kind of climate finance mechanisms under the UNFCCC or also under other kind of institutions. In Bolivia, for example, the focus is more about carbon accounting, so uncertainty assessment, building like this readiness for the future participation in this kind of mechanism that can be connected to the TFFF or to climate or to Article 6 and other kind of forest finance mechanisms. In Colombia, it's completely different. And the focus is mostly on forest enforcement to really support the government to better plan and to know where to send people, for example, to stop this kind of deforestation. And in Brazil, which is pretty interesting also, the focus is completely transparency, because there we have many different kind of mechanisms that can pretty well do the deforestation monitoring around the country, including the Brazil Mais program. And of course, and in Brazil now, they have different challenges also, of course. This is still remain a big challenge, but they are building, for example, the new domestic carbon market. So using this kind of data to understand a little bit better the distribution of the carbon and trying to support some investigation around greenwashing. So what we are seeing is a really transition from this monitoring to operational implementation and now to climate finance participation. And I think one of the biggest lessons from the recent years, I think especially from some of these challenges that we saw in parts, of course, in the voluntary carbon market, I think is that trust really cannot come only from these methodologies written on papers. I mean, as a scientist, I really think it's important, but it also needs a system that are really transparent, that can be operational, and that you can have this continuous monitoring, right, for all the areas that we have spread by the country. And of course, I believe, and also many people believe, that this is why digital MRV it's becoming so important nowadays, because the digital MRV really allows this country not only to monitor the forest, like with more frequency, consistently, but really to build all this system that you can have traceability, that you can scale, and that you can really trust. And of course, this is not about replacing some different kind of methods to estimate or to monitor, for example. We always have this thought before, like, oh, field work against satellite image, but it's not. It's really about empowering them merging all the kind of technology that we have to really power country to have their even stronger ownership through all these national systems, combining public Earth observation, private Earth observation data, field data, local expertise, and principally the national institutions that are involved. And I really think that is really where I see Earth observation is really heading. And we are moving from data to really governance of infrastructure that are built into these national systems. And of course, I think to really finish here, I think the future of climate finance will really depend on the systems where the governments, also big institutions like the United Nations, the investors, which are playing a big role in all these finance mechanisms, and society, of course, can really trust. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I think even they deserve an applause if she's listening to us. No, I think it was great somehow to closing with Flavia. In fact, I thought that she was here because I think she connected the flow of the discussion. But we wanted to close with the finance. And as I mentioned before at the beginning, because this symposium is about investing in Earth intelligence for a resilient future. So investment means also finance. And the connection with the carbon markets, the carbon accounting, we have new players on the room, not here, but unfortunately, but they are all these rating agencies, insurance and certification bodies that they are looking into the MRV solutions, monitoring, reporting, and verification. And they are really willing to embed the Earth observation into their workflows. And this means that they will be buyers of these MRV solutions. So we wanted to finish on this presentation because they open maybe the floor for more thoughts than being only in the governance, really coming out from this comfort zone that we are looking for potential customers or users, final users. Well, any burning question now? I know that Flavia will not respond, but maybe other people from the panel. Yeah. Okay, so well, then I will open the questions also because we have, okay, we keep it in this sense. The idea is that I think through the presentations, we have a kind of navigation, a journey, on about how EO is embedded into the MRV systems for provision, but trusted was a word that has been already mentioned by many of the speakers. Also, there will be the discussion now that will take place is about credibility, about transparency, about how we are cross between science, policy, and the financial mechanisms, but also communities. And then we will build a little bit on all this data integration, about this modeling, about this uncertainty of the data or the model or any uncertainty that could build on the aggregation more for the nature-based solutions in practice. So these are more or less the questions that we will go through the panelists. And I do have one generic one for all of you. That is about, you presented your experience cases in all the countries, and there was this question about how to move from these pilots that you've been experiencing with this trust, sustainable, and operational decision making. The question is very broad, but I would like that you, apart from these words that I mentioned now, you will give me something new about transparency methods, the validation of the data, the clear uncertainty information, and integration. So your experience from pilot to trusted operational decision-making, but give me something more than the words that we mentioned now. Maybe can I start with you?
One word, I know trusted system has been mentioned many times. What I would think, one thing is institutionalized trust. Without, institutionalized and regulatory framework, it's very difficult for people to really make a decision on investment in this and build this into the system where to approve that these methods or somehow is accountable and consistent in use. So I would say trust is not about the technology itself, about the system itself. it needs to be institutionalized in order for this system to move from pilots to sustained decision-making tool, which can attract a lot of support, whether from government or other stakeholders in private sector. So is that the new words? Institutionalize the trust.
Exactly. This is exactly what we want, because we wanted to make it a little bit a step further. We have been a couple of days here. These words need an extra word. So thank you so much for offering that. So now the question for you, Si-Chen.
So you already mentioned a lot. So the new is difficult, I think. Maybe I mentioned the one word, the standardization. Yeah, I think it's very important because for the decision makers and also the international bodies to trust the results. I think it's very important to transition from the fragmented data connection to a strict, standardized and harmonized protocol that for the data quality control and also the unified methods. Yeah,
Okay.
that's my opinion.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now for Fabian. Yeah, I mean, Gislian or Fabian, I just see you here.
Okay, I can go ahead. Yeah, fully sharing the view already expressed. I will try to complete maybe. I would say at more personal level, scalability and sustainability are keys. If I can develop a little bit, generally we performed pilots and demonstrations. It's about testing methods and tools on given area, but generally area to be covered in operational phase is much larger. So they must prove scalability without compromising both system effectiveness and quality of the results. And for this, when upscaling, it is of high importance to anticipate the needs in terms of data infrastructure, I mean storage, computation, maintenance, and implementation environments. And regarding sustainability, it's about being able to get both a continuous access to data, tools, and methods deployed, but also the capabilities to handle the tool pilot algorithms. I mean, detecting errors, adapting scripts, applying new requirements or specifications from the input data, such a thing. So it is important, once again, to deploy capacity building. And as an alternative, for sure, contracting a long-term service with an external organization may also secure the sustainability of such MRV system. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabian. And now for you, Gislian.
I would like to highlight the opportunity of the information. Okay, it's very important to us as hydrometeorological service. Early warnings are very, very important. So having access to a state of the art of the last technology is very important to provide us early warning for the government and the making decision. So if we don't have access to that technology, we don't have provide information. So the government has not the opportunity to make decision in the right time. So.
Indeed, thank you. Now, any opportunity again for the floor? Okay, so I keep going then. I do have now, I will go one by one. That was a general question just to warm me up a little bit. So now for you, Silencio, how can Earth observation evolve beyond this environmental monitoring? You mentioned about this institutional trust, but my direction will be that you expand on these socioeconomic variables. You mentioned the importance, so how we go beyond this environmental part, the socioeconomic variables, the institutionalization.
Yeah. What I would think is that given the requirement condition provided that we are fully integrated, but I would hope all the efforts, all the monitoring, go beyond the monitoring efforts is that we shift towards a more problem-driven and solution-oriented approach, rather than we're starting with abundance of data availability, because that will not allow the chances for the uptake or somehow. So I think the key part of this I wanted to emphasize again is a core design of any of these projects. We, the stakeholders, especially decision makers, because that would ensure the relevance and ownership and eventually the uptake and the upscaling, especially for. Is that?
Yeah, that's perfect. But maybe let me see, because you mentioned decision makers, and it's too broad, who could be these decision makers. For you, maybe because you are in the UNEP, you are targeting decision makers, the UN level, higher up hierarchy, or maybe in the local dimension, the local authorities, because I guess that there are different messages for each of those.
I think decision makers are at all levels. At UN level, because the member states all supported for the resolutions. Those are the decisions made. So we need to monitor the progress and then implementation every day. So those could be, I wanted to mention about from yesterday, several mentioning about land degradation neutrality as a target, right? So we can support, but that was a decision at the UNCCD made. We wanted to reach the land degradation neutrality. So that is the one level of decision making. But at the local level, we always have different stakeholders, and they needed to be the owner, to be grounded the ownership of this. And also, of course, national government, local government, even communities, because some of the forests are owned by the collectives and communities, and they are decision makers of every use, and then, the trade or everything that they apply. So, I mean, the decision makers are at all fronts, but companies as well, because some of them are providing technologies and providing services, so they needed to be involved in this. And as I said, if you are problem-driven and solution-oriented, you form a group of people that best fit the needs rather than, I have a supply, who wants? And we have a demands there, we can, start responding with providing suppliers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not sure whether I elaborated in the way.
Well, I think it's important to make the boundaries about who are the decision makers, because every one of us, maybe through the experience that we have a different concept about that. For now, Sichen, you presented the case about the long-term ecological networks, and this is very related with nature-based solutions. And also all this, you mentioned about this credibility, but also the uncertainty. So could you expand about, within the government, how they will consider the uncertainty in terms that you need to define a target for getting more funds to get into the next level? How much important is for the government, the uncertainty? Because you mentioned the government is your main driver, no?
Reduce the uncertainty is for the carbon.
Yeah.
I think for the carbon global carbon estimate, the uncertainties quantification is very important. That's because it gives us a more robust and high confidence results for the decision makers. That such as currently for the Paris Agreement. Yes, and also for the global carbon budget estimate. Currently, also have a high uncertainties. So right now, so many networks and so many scientists do great efforts to reduce them. That's, for example, we established the comprehensive infrastructure by using the different skills approaches together to reduce the uncertainties, because each approaches have their advantages, as we know, such as the satellite. It have a wide areas and continuously observation, but also it suffered some errors and inversion buyers. So at this time to combine the ground-based methods, it's good to reduce the uncertainties. That is also important to finally to reduce the uncertainty, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, indeed, uncertainty is nowadays, I think, a high topic, at least in Europe, because they have the carbon removal certification framework. It's a new framework that is being now, is going to look into the implementation, and they are discussing the methodologies, and the methodologies are quite related to the uncertainty discussions. So your example, they could be very, very relevant for this. So thinking now a question now from the Colombia case of Gislian. We saw this strong example from forest monitoring, and you mentioned about these key institutional discussions at the governmental level. So for this national reporting, which for you are the main barriers? You have the discussion in place every week or every time. So which are the barriers they come from you for the government?
Watch los términos. Okay. Explain how difficult it is to get the information. La periodicidad de la información. The government needs information for early awareness, needs information in one way, and most of the case we don't have the information in the way they need, because it's different. So we have to explain how we get the information and how kind of information we can provide, and then evaluate or associate another variables to analyze. So it's a very important point, because it's communication. Okay, it's how. What is the information available and what the government needs? So we have to share, looking for a place in common, so to communicate information. And I think something very important is I don't know in English how is the expression, but in Spanish we say voluntad política. It's very important that the government want to protect the environment, want to que para el gobierno sea importante la ciencia. The science has to be important to the government, because if don't want to making decision based on science, we don't know nothing to do. So that is very important. The voluntad, I don't know the name.
Yeah. The political willingness.
The political willing to the government for hear the information, the science information, and making decision based on science.
Okay, so it is interesting what you mentioned about the communication, because here do you feel that there are different languages coming from the institutionals, I mean the government side, and also you as representing the science community, so that you don't talk the same language somehow?
Yeah,
it's not about the communication itself, it's really because science needs to be translated.
No, a common language in the meeting is very important, that everybody is understand what I'm talking about. It's very important. We speak in the same language, but it's not. It's very difficult.
Yeah,
I think it's possible. Lo logramos.
Yeah, I'm sure that what Gislian is resonating to some of you, that you talk with someone in the policy dimension that is like a barrier. And in fact, I saw slides, I don't know in which presentation, that was a common wall, that there were two communities there and still the communication barrier in the middle. So yeah, let's move on this. Okay, so thank you so much. And now, Sebastian, for the case, for the Gabon case, you highlight the near real-time forest and land use monitoring. So, but for you, what will be the lessons learned that you have for the government, this experience with them, talking with them, doing the training, the capacity building? What are the lessons that you would like to extrapolate for a future piece of work that you have, or maybe the scalability in another country?
Yeah, sure. I will try not to say the same thing, but yeah, it has already been mentioned in the presentation, and also by Chinese colleagues, especially the involvement of any local stakeholders is a key at the very beginning of any process for deploying such a EU-based system for monitoring forest and other topics. So co-design and co-development need to be part of each step of the process in a way that they can, the stakeholders can appreciate the provider's knowledge and get to trust them. This way, the tool must be co-developed, making it possible the local stakeholders to understand all processes, make interactions, adapt methods, specifications, definitions according to the needs expressed, and validate each step. This should be an iterative process, carefully communicating with the right channels and asking for feedback regularly to ensure this usefulness that we need for a long-term adoption by national authorities and other stakeholders. The other point is capacity building once again, with adapted communications required for automation and maintenance of the system by local operators, and also maybe more practical aspects. Logistical considerations should not be overlooked either. For example, here for Gabon, shipping and installing the equipment along with local operational conditions such as frequent power outages or poor internet connection are factors that must be considered seriously too. And finally, in terms of interoperability and data dissemination, it is still an important feature from my perspective following this experience. And it could be successful this way with a visualization platform offering proper and relevant analytics and reports for authorities, specifically fitting the needs expressed by them.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it was very comprehensive. Before moving to the next round of questions, I still give an opportunity for the audience. We are not motivating you to discuss. Okay, so oh yeah, sorry.
I think this one is a contribution. I would like to say that at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, in fact, recently, just last 2 months, we had an MOU with the Gabon Space Agency.
Yes.
And one of the things we are looking at is capacity building. And it will be interesting because we also have a carbon monitoring tower in Ghana in one of our forests. So I would like to explore the opportunity whereby CLS could also, we could think about something jointly because now the two institutions have something in common. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks. I think we need to wrap up, so but any last question on that? Okay, so I will leave maybe the Yeah. Sorry, I think I've been informed that we need to wrap up, but before going that, we think we have some minutes, and I think with these 5 minutes or few minutes that we have, maybe I will leave you the floor again to give which message do you like to give to GEO to work more, how we this community will build together. Maybe you put already, some of you put already recommendations, but what will be the message for this audience that about collaboration, about the strengthening, about which is the message that you would like to put to them? Maybe you can start. Yeah.
I want to start with one word, that talk to different disciplinary people about EO and about others, because this is my first time to be at EO, but I wanted to, in 5 years from now, everybody knows what EO can do, what EO could support. So multidisciplinary communication and common understanding with languages would be very important. Just one step there.
Yeah, as I want to see to further strengthen the linkage between the GEOs and the regional or the national network. That's my opinion. Thank you.
From my side, I would say taking care of robust communication efforts during pilot projects and demonstrations to raise awareness among all the user community in order to engage. And if the target audience is convinced by the benefits and understand the EU potentials, then finding a financing solution should become easier. And another factor I would like to highlight is the lack of resources to maintain and operate such services and systems. So take care of capacity building, even with a long-term after-sales service to give support to local operators. Thank you.
Sorry. To me, is to better understand the local needs. Most of the time, we are looking for solution for problems we don't have. So that is very, very important. The innovation is in the local.
Yeah, thank you very much to all the audience and the audience. And I think we'd all reserve a round of applause and looking forward to continue this collaboration.